Hello there, Ray here, and you guys know my goal of trying to make a farm for everything in the game of Minecraft. With sniffers added into the game, they can sniff out and dig up torch flower seeds. These new flowers can be then grown up for the new torch flower plant. And during my Twitch livestream, I designed these two automatic farms. Leave a like for the extreme dedication that I put in for the last 13 years. To find your first sniffer egg, you'll need to first find some suspicious sand at an archaeological site, which could be like one of these desert wells or these desert temples. And in the bottom of them, you'll find sand that when you remove it, you can actually find suspicious sand in this area. So here's one right here. Then using your brush on it, this will pull the item that's within it out of it. In this case, we got an emerald. But there's also a chance of finding a sniffer egg within one of these. They can hatch out 2 eggs for 2 baby sniffers and let them grow up. Then let them sniff up 2 torch seeds. Then using the torch seeds on 2 of them, you can actually breed them together to produce more sniffers. Then you just put them inside of this little machine here, which I'll provide the schematic down in the description. You can place this wherever you want, long as it's loaded. The way this is done is just by having some of the blocks that they can actually sniff up seeds in as a floor. Other places sniffers can decide to dig are determined by the tag, which is called hashtag sniffer diggable block, which includes stuff like grass, dirt, mud, stuff that's soft as well as natural, but doesn't include stuff like sand or gravel. And then we have a few sniffers in here, not too many, otherwise they can't move around. Giving them room to move about is important because if we look at the sniffer's data, we can see it actually sniffs out a whole bunch of different locations one by one. And every time it finds a new location, it will produce a seed. So it won't choose the same spot. Once it reaches 20 different locations, then it will clear those so it can restart, possibly using the same ones over again. This way you can't just have a sniffer in one exact area for it to constantly produce seeds. Once it does find a seed, it also has a cooldown, which you can see here, which is called sniff cooldown, and it's an 8-minute long cooldown. And once it reaches 0, it can go ahead and find a new seed. And once they sniff up seeds, the items will just drop on the ground here. And then we have some water, which is hidden behind these trapdoors, and it's connected to some redstone and to a clock. We've just got a hopper clock here with all the slots filled with items, which is a little bit over 4 minutes. Once all the items are removed from one side, then it's going to switch over and move the redstone block over here, which is then going to turn off this. Then the water will flush all the seeds over to here, and over here we got some more water, which will move them all towards the center. We got a hopper, which will pick them up and pushes them into this barrel. You can see this farm actually produces quite a bit over time, despite only having a few sniffers and a small area. You can always expand this as big as you want to get as many seeds as you need. Because sniffers have that 8-minute cooldown timer, and this timer is about 4 minutes, it works really well. It gives them about 4 minutes of being able to sniff out seeds and 4 minutes of just sitting in some water. You could add some more redstone so they're not constantly sitting in water, but by doing this, it actually works the same and is a bit simpler. There's a few things you can do with the seeds, like breeding more sniffers to get sniffer babies. Killing the sniffer babies don't provide anything, but if you kill the adults, they do give you 2 XP orbs and have a chance of actually dropping moss block. But it would be way more efficient to use my 24/7 infinitely automatic moss farm, which also provides XPs, fuel, and bone meal. The seeds could also be used to speed up the growth of the baby sniffers. Now instead of collecting all the seeds in this barrel here, alternatively you can hook this water stream up so it takes the seeds directly to the player who will be operating this machine over here. This converts the torch flower seeds over into the new torch flower plant. You can then plant the torch flower seed onto farmland. Now there is 3 stages to these torch flowers. There's age 0, which looks like this. Then there's chance for it to grow up every time you bone mill it. There's age 1, and then age 2 is the final stage. Or you can wait for the flower to grow up on its own. And hooking this up with a dispenser, we can have it grow it up automatically. And when broken by any means, drops as an item. Now farmer villagers don't actually pick up these seeds, so they won't actually plant them down on farmland automatically. So I made an automatic farm for the torch flower. Player would stand here, just hold the seeds, and this is on and off switch. Then you stand in the corner here and just aim in this corner and hold down right click, and it'll plant 1 seed at a time. And then what we got is some dispensers. We actually got 4 dispensers, 3 on this side and 1 above, which are all being filled up with bone meal. You can supply the bone meal from chest. If you would add in a bone meal farm to this, like the ones I show in this playlist here, then the system becomes an infinitely automatic torch flower farm. With 4 dispensers, the flower grows up very quickly, so that the large majority of the time when it's broken off, it is a flower. Otherwise, if it breaks early, it just drops the seed again, which a player will just pick up again and replant. And they're all being activated by this observer clock here, which is also coming around the back after a short delay, and updating this piston, which is pushing a gate in there to just break off the seeds once they're fully grown. On average, every single one of these flowers to grow fully takes about 2.5 bone meal. And with this short delay with the piston, it gives enough time for the dispensers to place a bone meal onto it, and then it'll break it off and it will get picked up through the farmland with this hopper here and placed into the chest over here. So if you had enough seeds to run this farm for an entire hour, you could produce 4,600 flowers an hour. So with this farm, you can get tons of these new cool flowers, which you can place down on any type of dirt-like block. And if you have any extras, you can always craft them down to orange dye, though it does cost more bone meal than just using this dye farm here. The entire farm is quite small, and I use quasi connectivity to actually power most of the dispensers, so we only have a single redstone dust. In Bedrock Edition, you can switch out the note blocks with redstone dust. It is optional to have the on and off switch as well as extra storage. For the latest versions of these farms, look in the description. Check out this playlist where I made a farm for thousands of unique items in the game, or this one about simple machines and farms. Thank you everyone who joined my live streams and pointed out ways I can improve upon my farms. You can always see the entire building process archived in my Twitch videos. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.